Hi, I'm Genie Appel-Cohen, and I'm really excited to be talking to you today about my art. Here we go.
Can you briefly describe your journey as a painter?
Yeah, to talk about that, I need to speak about my dad. My dad was a painter. He was a professional artist. And because of him, I was brought to museums every week. We lived in New York City, and I had that wonderful opportunity to study at the Art Students League from the time I was 6 to the time I was 16. So painting and drawing was always a part of my life. Of course, I went to art school, and I continued on from there. Today, I'm doing other things. I'm teaching art. I do workshops all over the country. I've owned an art school for over 20 years, and that part is over. And right now I'm doing a lot of new art that I'm very excited to talk with you about.
How did you get started and what motivated you to pursue this career?
Well, I got started because I was lousy in math and probably really bad in a lot of other subjects, but I was a terrific artist. And anytime you get feedback as a kid on something that you're good, you're going to continue to do it. So that's really the very beginning of how I started with art.
What inspired you to choose painting as your primary medium of artistic expression? Were there any specific artists or experiences that influenced your decision?
Yeah, several of them. Gustav Klimt, the Viennese artist, I was always very intrigued with his rich use of golds and women and his portrait work, and Wolf Kahn, who is more of a modern abstract painter. I loved his work. I was able to study with him for a while back in New York. Several different artists have really helped me along my journey, and having painted this length of time, I think the thing that's most interesting is that I change my style and my mediums every few years. I start with a series, I work in series, and then after about 3 or 4 or 5 years, I switch and I do something new. And that keeps me fresh and always interested in, creating new art, new expressions.
Could you tell us about a turning point or a milestone in your career as a painter?
I'll tell you a story. I was in a really terrible automobile accident, and I was unable to work for a full year. I was home recuperating. I had a lot of herniated discs in my neck, and I was, really probably emotionally in a really down period of time. And at that time, I had an epiphany of, this is the rest of my life. What do I want to do with it? And I really made the decision at that time to put everything else that I was doing away, and things that my husband wanted me to do. He had an idea of who I was, and I had to basically say, no, that's not going to happen anymore, and really have the courage to stand up and say, I'm an artist, this is what I'm meant to do, this is what I'm going to do. And from that point on, from after I recovered from that accident, which is really a very fortuitous, wonderful thing that happened to me, because it gave me the time to have that introspection and make a commitment to go for it no matter what, and that's what I did.
Have you explored different styles or themes in your artwork over the years? What drives your creative exploration, and how do you decide which direction to take with your paintings?
I think that it's almost decided for me. I started out as a portrait painter. I was very good at faces, and I did a lot of great portraits, and I did well with that. That was very successful for a while. And then I went into landscape, had a series at a gallery in Fort Lauderdale with paths. Everything was paths leading down to different places. That went on for over 150 paintings, and I said, enough of that. I wanted to move on. I worked for a lot of interior designers to do big paintings and for people's houses. That was very fulfilling for me for a while. And then, got tired of doing that. So I kept on exploring different things that I wanted to do. And I think right now I'm at the point where I'm at the happiest with the work that I'm doing that really now is expressing who I am as a painter. And that's a series I'll talk about in a minute.
How do you approach the process of creating a new painting? Could you walk us through your creative process from conceptualization to completion?
Yeah, I can. As a matter of fact, I have a sketchbook and I have it with me all the time. And anytime I see something that intrigues me, I just sketch it, and so have a mental notebook of what's going on. And then I go from the sketchbook and I start to develop the sketch. Then I'll do some color samples and see where I'm going with the color families of what I'm working on. And from there, I'll then get a huge canvas and I will translate all of that freehand and start to work on the process that I'm now doing with the Pepio paints that I'm working with at this time.
Have you ever stepped outside your comfort zone and tried something completely different? If so, how did it impact your growth as an artist?
Oh, what a great question. So yes, I started to do ceramics about 10 years ago. I had a kiln, I had a big space where I worked. I did a lot of hand building and a little bit of throwing. And that was taking me into a three-dimensional art medium rather than just doing two-dimensionals, which made me a better artist because it's helped me to see things in a different way. It gave more energy to my work, and that's really exciting because painting can be very static. It could be a horizontal or vertical, and working with the ceramics gave me a more of ability to see in a three-dimensional form, and that's definitely what's happening now with my work, which is very three-dimensional.
What sets your work apart from other painters in the industry?
Probably the materials that I use. Painters paint with paint. I am painting with a resin-based enamel. It's very different. It's quite intriguing. I don't use brushes. I use eyedroppers. I use sticks to work with it. I don't pour it. I have to place it very gently and let the alchemy of the paints work with each other. So my technique is really quite different and challenging, but it makes a wonderful statement. So, I'll show it to you in just a little bit.
Looking back at your journey, what advice would you give to aspiring painters who are just starting out and looking to establish themselves in the art world?
Never give up. Absolutely don't give up. Don't take no for an answer. If someone is turning down your work, go find out why. See what art is being exhibited and why your art is not on that caliber. Really be ruthless with yourself and your self-criticism. That is the most important thing that you can do. Everybody gonna tell you that everything looks great or, oh, you did a great job. If you're not getting where you want to go, then you have to figure out what is it that I need to do next. And that's really hard work, but being honest and truthful with yourself is going to get you where you want to go, into that gallery, into that show, into that museum where you belong. So you just go for it. Don't take no for an answer.